Too late.
Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday, and we are live here on the Man United Agenda. We would just like to say we are now sponsored by Global Mapping Surveys. Global Mapping Surveys currently assist architects, property developers, and construction companies all over the country. They offer a wide range of services such as setting out topographical surveys, 3D laser scanning, monitoring, and the link will be in the description. We will be back with you after this intro. Welcome to the Man United Agenda and FTSN Sport. We are live on both channels today. The initial topic that we had planned has been expanded given the current news. But before we get into that, I want to say hello to Pat and Ross. Pat, how are we doing?
Not bad, man. Yourself?
Can't complain now. Tuesday's day is done. Ross?
All good, all good. Good to see you guys again. It's been a while since I've seen Pat's face, so it's always good to have him bless my screen. Looking forward to the topics today, lads.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, before we get into the main event, I am going to go through the 60-second media round update that hadn't made tonight's stories. It is expected that David De Gea will not have his contract removed, according to some reports. Dean Henderson, who claimed that he didn't want to let Ten Hag see him play, is starting to look like that statement is looking to bite him in the behind following the recent performances. There was a report that the now Saudi owners of Newcastle had an opportunity to buy 30% of Manchester United. However, they would not have any say in the running of the club if they had actually taken that up. And according to some reports following on from that story, it is speculated that now it is put up or shut up time for the Glazers as they cannot seem to find a dance partner that's willing to sit in the background as a silent investor. And stories are at least saying that they do not have the finances and resources to continue with the project at Manchester United. What that remains to be seen what will happen there. Pat, just before we go on to the main story, any of those headlines grabbing your attention?
The Dean Henderson one just gets me go. He's obviously part and parcel of some of the players that were given hassle and probably not treated well behind the scenes at Manchester United in the past 3 years. So it's watching the video of him giving out about Manchester United and saying how much he wants to get out of there. It's not good. It's not good for him speaking about the club. It's not good about how well the club would have been run behind the scenes. I'm not saying he's an angel either, but it takes two to tango, and I still don't like to see the video. It's not good. We should never have any publicity about Manchester United coming out unless it's only good.
Absolutely. Ross, any of those short headlines grabbing your attention that you want to come in on?
Yeah, the lack of investment that's going to be continued into Man United. Looks like you guys have got problems on the pitch and off it, even more so off it, and more than I expected. I know that the Glazers are not the most loved people in Manchester at the moment, but it looks like they just keep digging the hole deeper for themselves.
Certainly not. It is looking like the finances are pointing to a possible sale, but we'll have to monitor that. But before we get into the main story of the day, which is around one Cristiano Ronaldo, as you're obviously observing, this isn't fantasy football. We are changing the way that we deliver the fantasy football updates here on the channel. We will announce how we're going to be doing that in the coming days, but this is the debut of the Football Lounge. This is just a pilot show, so it may or may not return next week. We shall see how the take up is. But lads, the initial story that we were going to be talking about was whether or not that Ronaldo was in decline, and obviously events transpired today where it is believed that Ten Hag will not stand in the way of Cristiano Ronaldo exiting this January. The Portuguese star has only been selected to start one of 7 Premier League games this season and only has one goal, which came against FC Sheriff in the Europa League. Ronaldo is believed to cut a frustrated figure as he watched from the sidelines as United got humbled 6-3 at the Etihad. Former United captain Roy Keane suggested that the 37-year-old was being disrespected by his manager, which in truth is complete nonsense, according to this report. According to the Telegraph, Ronaldo is eyeing a January move away, and Eric Ten Hag will not stand in the way if a suitable suitor arrives. The move he wanted in the summer never happened, and sounds like Jorge Mendes will be pushing hard again after the World Cup. But, lads, what do you think of this Ronaldo situation? Obviously, things have escalated once again, following on from his delayed return to club for pre-season training. He missed the entire pre-season, in essence, was starting from a late phase. Do you agree, Pat, with Roy Keane's assessment that he's been disrespected by the Man United manager?
Oh man, I love Roy Keane, but with a comment like that, I'd love to say just mind your own. Or maybe he does know what's going on, and I need to shut my own mouth because I love Roy Keane. You know, absolutely love him. But does he deserve to be in the team? Oh look, we don't know the full ins and outs. We don't know the full true story. Like as far as we are being told, is the truth that we're aware of. He took time off in the summer and he stayed wherever he stayed, and he came back. And he's now playing for Manchester United. He's trained and he deserves to be in the squad. That's the story that Roy Keane is portraying. But in hindsight, it wasn't really that way. Jorge Mendes was trying to tart him around the transfer market to anybody who would take him or anybody who would pay his wages, and it doesn't feel like it worked out that way. So no, I don't really agree with Roy's wages because Roy's comments, because it doesn't come across to me very accurate or fair.
Ross, you obviously, as an impartial Aston Villa fan, you're coming at this with clean hands. In terms of the way Cristiano Ronaldo is being treated this season, according to Roy Keane, given a player of his stature and the salary and respect that is stated that he commands, is not playing something that Cristiano Ronaldo will actually be able to stomach.
Yeah, and we have to point back as to why he joined Man United again in the first place. When his contract was running to an end at Juventus, look, we knew that he was coming to the end of his career or the twilight of it. And to be fair, he could have caught time on his career then. He could have gone to a Europa League club then. But he saw the club that he loves, Man United, struggling. And he wanted to come back because he felt like he had a point to prove and he still had a lot more to give to the pitch and to the team. And I think that once he had joined United, he realized the problems that were at the club were deeper and more harsh than what he initially thought. And look, as an impartial fan to both United and Cristiano, because he's not my most favorite player, but seeing him go back there just shows the type of mentality he has as an elite athlete. He wants to perform. He knows he can still perform on the greatest stage of them all. And seeing how Man United have treated him over close to a year now, I think it's absolutely disgusting. It really is. When a player of a stature like Ronaldo comes back into your club or comes to any club, you have to work out how you're going to utilize him to his full potential. United and the decisions that's been made there, and you guys can correct me wherever you can, how those decisions were made, bringing in Rolf Ragnick as interim manager, then changing his style completely to bring in Ten Hag. Yes, there's similarities, but it's changed. There's no doubts about that. And still with those two types of tactics and formations at play, none of them utilize Ronaldo to his best strengths. He's not going to be the type of striker or player that chases down every ball or presses hard. He can be a liability in that sense, but he's still got a lot to give. Hell, he's won how many Ballon d'Ors? More than you can count on one hand. He's a player, when used in the correct way, will get you goals. And not only that, is a big asset in the changing room. He will get the players rallied up. He will help influence winning mindsets because he's won the lot. So I feel right now at Man United, he's just been treated absolutely appalling. It's disgusting the way he's been treated.
I agree with you, Ross. And I think that's very fair point. Okay. But the only part that I can't wrap my head around is on the day of Eric Ten Hag's first interview, he turned around and he said, I can't wait to get working with Cristiano Ronaldo. And here we are, a couple of months later, and he's sitting on the bench. So what has happened in the background between now and then? So is there something Roy Keane knows about that situation that we don't know? And that's why he's appalled by it. And that's why he's saying how Ronaldo's being treated is disgusting. Because if the media were to believe you, if the media were to have us believe everything that they write, Ronaldo's the big bad criminal. He's the bad boy. He's the wrong person. It's all his fault. You know, like regardless of him taking time off for his family or not, the media portrays him as the villain. He's only doing that to get a move outside Manchester United. So I don't know. I don't know
Now,
what's happening.
interestingly, you mentioned there about the Eric Ten Hag stating that he couldn't wait to work with Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, bearing in mind that we had the earlier referenced Dean Henderson interview where he did not want to let the manager see him because if he did see him, he'd want to keep him. Obviously, the transpiring of Ronaldo not returning for preseason training as scheduled. Now, the truth of what happened there, we probably will never find out because there's conflicting stories as to whether or not he was sitting away to arbitrate a move or whether or not something was going on personally that, in fairness, if it was that, it did need his attention. Um, did the relationship sour in terms of the professionalism? Because it just seemed like Cristiano Ronaldo, from I suppose a fitness level, from playing into the system that Ten Hag wanted to execute, was starting from behind the start line. He had given all the rest of the squad a head start. Martial started doing good things on pre-season, and then coming in, he was trying to force his way back in, even though his name was Cristiano Ronaldo. And I also want to draw your attention to the most recent international break. There has been much criticism of Cristiano Ronaldo's performances for Portugal in that, and even some were crediting the fact that Ten Hag has not been starting Cristiano Ronaldo with giving the Portuguese manager the confidence to be able to put out a style of play that did not utilize Cristiano Ronaldo. There was a lot of comments about him not having the same reaction speed, that even though the brain is still sharp, the body was that 2 or 3 tenths of a second, a bit slower in coming onto the ball, and it was causing chances that would have been put away in his heyday not to even get put on target. What do you think of that assessment, Pat?
The only thing that kind of stuck out to me with Cristiano was obviously we've seen a couple of games where he just didn't look up at the races and his touch was poor and his pace was poor. But look, let's give the man a break. He's only human, you know. But when he first came into the side, when he first came back, like what we haven't seen is, and I'll sound like I'm plugging here, but the eye test is on at 10 o'clock tonight, lads. Make sure you don't miss it, all right? But I've learned a lot from watching that. And what I've noticed from that is, for example, Marcus Rashford in the Manchester City game the weekend, he was left, right, up and down, closing down plays, chasing down defenders, making sure defenders can't play the ball through our mid block, making sure the ball can't be played through our midfield. And it feels like Cristiano was being brought into this team and being expected to have the same kind of legs as Marcus Rashford and do all of this. And Cristiano doesn't have the legs to do it, right? He has the skill to score the goals. Nobody's ever doubting that. But the problem is he's being brought in here to be played there at Ten Hag's system, and he's not able for it. And the first time when he came back in, I can't remember whether it was the last game in pre-season or the first game in the Premier League. You could see Cristiano standing on the sideline with Eric Ten Hag, and he's basically whimpering and moaning at Eric Ten Hag, saying, what do you want me to do? Like this, that, what, like what? All this kind of sign language, like to say, like, what, you want me to run up, down, left, right? Just give me the ball, like. And so that's one side of the coin. But the other side of the coin is, like, I remember when Manchester United and Alex Ferguson brought Robin van Persie in, we had Keane, Scholes, we had the whole lot of them. No, sorry, not Keane, we Scholes, Carrick, Rooney, the whole lot of them. And every single one of them was told, no matter what you do, I think he nearly went as far as saying, I'll dock your wages if you don't just kick that ball forward to Robin van Persie and make sure that ball's at his feet. Now, obviously, football has changed between now and then, so maybe that could be one aspect. Maybe it's not, but that's just me for watching from previous Manchester United squads, players coming in the latter stage of their career.
Absolutely. Now, Ross, I'm going to come at you with a different element here, and the hypothesis is that Ronaldo, that the sands of time have caught up with him, that age is a thing that unfortunately no player can escape, and with that, you have to evolve your style of play. But some speculators are saying that it's not a case that he can evolve his style of play to maintain a footing at the top table anymore. That unfortunately, that years have caught up to him. Just to give you some statistics from Ronaldo, basically since the 2009-10 season at Madrid, he's averaged 30 goals a season without, 2007-8 season at Manchester United even, he's averaged 30 goals a season without really breaking a sweat. The first season, his return season, after 29 goal haul the previous season with Juventus, he managed a mere 18 goals from domestic league. So a marked drop off. Now, some would say that that was because the Manchester United team in itself wasn't functioning as a cohesive unit. So therefore, you cannot lay the full blame at Cristiano Ronaldo's feet. Also tempering against the argument for the criticism against Cristiano this year is that Lionel Messi last season was maligned. He said that he was past it, that because he wasn't able to do it in the French league, that he was no longer a top tier player. However, he seems to have turned around and started firing on all cylinders again. Is it a case that Manchester United fans and the greater media are being too quick to jump on his corpse and try to bury him and his career?
But is Messi firing on all cylinders?
Well, look, you guys both making some good points here. So I'll start off with Ronaldo. And I think that the media, they have every right to be calling Ronaldo out because the decline has been quite steady. If we look at how his performances have been with Juventus, we had seen how much Juventus had sacrificed their work ethic for the team to play to Ronaldo's strengths. A lot of the times, Ronaldo couldn't fit in with that squad. And we can see the ramifications of it now after Ronaldo's left. Juventus have found it quite hard to get their identity back, and they are struggling in the Serie A. I mean, they must be in 7th or 6th place now, and that's because of the long-term effects of having to sacrifice a lot of their players that they had in the Juventus squad that made up a good, solid team just for Ronaldo's strengths. So you get a lot of pros and cons with an elite player like that. So when we look at his performances now at Manchester United, and this goes back to last season as well, we have to all understand he's 38 years old. The only other player that I know of that still performed at that level at that age was Ibrahimovic. And those players, taking into account Ronaldo and Ibrahimovic, they kept themselves physically in tip-top shape. Mentally as well, they both have experience on the world's greatest stages. We're talking about Champions League, World Cups, etc. So it's only natural for players to lose that sense of athleticism in their older age. But it's how they make up for it to substitute those qualities with their experience. And Manchester United have a lot of, it's becoming quite cliche to say they have a lot of problems, because I'm sure both you and all the Manchester United fans know that by now. But I think they make it worse for themselves when, like Ronaldo, huge problem when they brought him. And I think one of the reasons, besides the commercial aspects that they brought him back to the club, was to try and paper over the cracks that had formed between them and the fan base. They wanted to have a marquee signing, and United are prone to this. They're prone to having unnecessary marquee signings when things are not going their way. And sometimes it does work. We talk about the Van Persie transfer that you were touching on there, Pat, and that worked wonders for them when they were battling to get the Premiership back in the early 2010s. Sometimes it doesn't work. We talk about Angel Di Maria for one, when they got Ibrahimovic as another marquee signing, and now Ronaldo, the greatest one of them all. So in that aspect, we can say that, yes, the decline has become a realization. That should take nothing away from him with the type of play he is and the performances that he's performed over his career. Now, when you look at Lionel Messi, his position was a little bit different. with Barcelona, they actually couldn't afford to keep him on the wage bill anymore. The only similarity between that situation is that both clubs, Barcelona and Man United, were run fairly poorly, except Man United are not in a financial catastrophe as what Barcelona were. They actually couldn't afford to keep the best player. So he's moved to PSG. I think he had a little bit of a transition phase where he struggled to settle in, and he's still not 100% settled in at the moment. We can see his lack of goal and assist contributions with Mbappe. Mbappe is the type of striker that won't chip in. He's very selfish. I was busy chatting to Pat about this before the show and saying Mbappe doesn't combine well with Neymar and Messi, but Neymar and Messi have quite a good partnership. So we see that start to flourish now, and that's only because of the type of squad that they have at PSG. They're very selfless because they know they need to play to their marquee signing strengths, i.e., Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi. Where I don't think United have that aspect in their locker.
Thanks very much, Ross. We're going to bookmark that conversation there. So, for a minute, because we do need to read out a few comments from the viewers. But before we do that, we would like to remind you that we are now currently sponsored by Global Mapping Surveys. Global Mapping Surveys currently assist architects, property developers, and construction companies all over the country. They offer a wide range of services such as setting out topographical surveys, 3D laser scanning, and monitoring. The link to this service will be available in the description. Now, Pat, I believe you're going to read out some of the comments for us.
Yeah. Oh, so I wasn't aware of this, but anyways, Alaconde 007. Have a good day. I'll be watching LFC in the Champions League this evening. Guess you Manx have to fill your Tuesdays, okay, and Wednesdays evenings with something to do. Thursday night football for you lot. That's all right. That's from a man who got beaten at Brighton nearly beaten at Brighton the weekend. Dale Griffiths, top man. Dean Henderson was the one leaking bad information to the media, wasn't he? Well, we believe so, and anyway, we can only speculate, Dale. Gavin Ward, definitely don't want any silent investors because it means Glazer stay for another 10 years. Full sayings only.
I will say hello to Matthew and Vincent, who are just saying hello in the chat. And this is the next one.
I think Eric Ten Hag wanted him to go before the season started, in my opinion. The Glazers said no to the sale because of the commercial side Ronaldo brings. It would hit the sale and share prices, and that would make a lot of sense from Gavin. Ronaldo has been hit by business politics, unfortunately, and that he doesn't suit Eric Ten Hag's style. Well, yeah, we're kind of getting to that. Is the sitting on the bench punishment for trying to force a move? I don't think so. Evening, gents. Respect to the panel. Loving the lounge format, by the way. And I'm now 6th in the fantasy league. I don't know how you are on Monday, Chum. Oh my God.
This one is for Ross, a Villa fan that's not from Birmingham. He's astounded at that.
Yeah. Oh, come here, hold on a second. I grew up with millions of Irish supporters being Villa fans because of Staunton, Houghton, McGrath. You had that Villa team riddled with Irish players. Gavin Ward, 2 aspects to the decline in Ronaldo. 1, style of play. 2, mentally pissed off because he hasn't been allowed to leave and that other woke players can't take his criticism because he's a serial winner.
Of course,
That's
that
true.
is a reference to last season when a player that he tried to enhance by giving them constructive criticism cried wolf. And the last one
Vincent
for now.
Demise, our Dutch correspondent, top man. We Dutch are direct and clear in what we say, and we are averse to focus on star players. Eric Ten Hag really wants CR7 to work, but if CR7 wants to go and he does not fit the team, Eric Ten Hag will let him go. So that could be, Vincent could be correct there. Ronaldo just may want to go, and he may just, I'm not playing with this style. I don't want to do it, and he just doesn't want to be there. But at the same time, I find that hard to believe as well because would he not want to be, because of the player that he is, would he not want to be playing to get himself match fit and in the eyes of the manager of the Portuguese team with the Euros coming up before the January window?
Well, that is the interesting thing. He did say that he had aspirations to go to the next Euros, which is what, 2 years' time. So he'd be almost 40 at that juncture. No. So the idea that he thinks he could keep himself physically in his peak, does suggest that obviously there's a certain swagger and a certain ego about Cristiano Ronaldo. But let's kind of get down to the nitty gritty. And you referenced there before we broke to the messages, Ross, that there was a lot of a commercialized element to the purchase and return of Cristiano Ronaldo to Old Trafford, with some reports last year saying that his arrival actually paid in full for Jadon Sancho. Um, Now, given obviously that the much maligned Ed Woodward has now departed club since making that transaction, some would say that it prevented us from going for the likes of an Erling Haaland or someone of his level, because we went and spent a large 500k per week fee on Cristiano Ronaldo's wage. And if Ronaldo had moved to City, would they then have gone for Haaland this year? But if not Haaland for United, would they have pursued a striker that it was younger, even though maybe a risk, would have probably had more longevity going forward? And the second thing is, though, we have seen last summer that Ronaldo's agent did attempt to arbitrate moves for him. The wage is seen as obviously a big stumbling block, and it was even suggested that his agent asked United would they stump up money for his client to leave Manchester United. Obviously, that making no business sense whatsoever. Um, Given that a lot of clubs shut the door on Ronaldo's face, is he standing as an elite striker in the view of these clubs kind of saying, your time has come, it's gone? Cristiano Ronaldo's day at the top of the parapet with Lionel Messi, that day is done. There's new, young, hungry lions looking to take over the roles of the best footballers in the world. And in terms of a business sense and a footballing sense, Cristiano Ronaldo no longer makes sense to the elite clubs.
Yeah, I would have to I'd have to disagree with the fact that people think that going for Ronaldo stopped Man United going for Haaland. I think that's incorrect on so many levels. And the reason I say that is because you stumped up nearly 100 million for Anthony when he could have got Haaland for that much money anyway. Uh, like Ronaldo's wages can be a stumbling block for most clubs out there, if not practically all, except the clubs in the Middle East. Uh, I'm still under the opinion that Ronaldo was seduced to go back to Manchester United, and I use that term because they played on the fact on how good it would look for the king to return back home to Old Trafford, and those wages have probably been paid back probably twice, double, triple, uh, just on a pure basis, as everybody says, commercially. And we don't think only about shirt sales in that sense. We think about the types of sponsorship that Manchester United gain from having Ronaldo. We're talking about image rights. We're talking about uh, advertisements, photography shoots, all of those other nitty-gritty that come along with the fine print as well. That in itself, his wages can cause a stumbling block if he were to move somewhere in Europe again, if he's going to demand those type of wages. And he can't demand those type of wages if he wants to move to another elite club, because he's not having the performance that sustains that. And you can argue that's because maybe Ronaldo's not on form, or perhaps the game has evolved so much that Ronaldo's original role, or what he used to flourish in, is become obsolete. That type of role that he used to play that got him so many goals and Ballon d'Ors, you don't see that anymore in the modern game. And now it's up to him if he wants to, or if he has the ability to adapt to the modern game, if he wants to go to the Euros when he's 40, if he wants to try and break back into the starting squad within Portugal, it's up to him to adapt his own game, because clearly majority of the managers are playing a certain way and he's not fitting that bill. But it's not to say that he's still not a great player. His career speaks for itself. I mean, he's the top goal scorer in Real Madrid. He's had countless of records that he's broken. I think he's at the moment the Champions League record goal scorer, and that's phenomenal. You're talking about a guy who's been at the top level for nearly 20 years. So Cristiano Ronaldo, with all respect to his career, will always be considered one of the greats. Is he one of the greats now? No, I don't think he would break top five. And it's only because we see the emergence of players like Mbappe, Haaland, Messi is still holding on to the top five spots. I don't even think Messi is the best in the world at the moment because of how good other players are. And then you got Kevin De Bruyne, who's been consistently performing as well over the last couple of seasons, and you can't leave him out of the argument. There's so many other players out there that I'm failing to mention. I'll probably get slaughtered in the comments for it. But they are really, really players. There's a lot of players out there that are really at the top of their game at the moment, and Ronaldo's steady decline has seen him fall out of favor. And it's no disrespect to him. It's just the fact that you can call it a bad circumstance. He went to a club that were in disarray, doesn't fit with his tactical style, and that just it's resulted in this messy situation. So if he wants to try and still be in Europe and not move to the likes of America, China, or even Middle East, he's either going to have to take a reducing wage or adapt his game to break into most starting lineups now.
Absolutely. And I suppose one of the humbling things for Cristiano Ronaldo is he was watching a guy called Erling Haaland equal his Premier League hat-trick tally after only 8 games in the league. But Pat, obviously the conversation tonight is about Cristiano Ronaldo and why we are discussing what we think the likely outcome for Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be. I will leave up the logo of the show sponsor and all their details for your viewers, for the viewers there to look at. But in your opinion, we now see that Erik ten Hag will not step in his way if he wants to leave in January. It's also believed that Donny van der Beek has been given the blessing to leave in January, according to some reports I'm just reading now.
Bless him.
Do you believe Cristiano Ronaldo will find a suitor in January? And if not, what do you think is the most likely outcome with Cristiano Ronaldo for the rest of the season?
Do you remember when Ryan Giggs was coming towards the end of his career, and I think Ferguson brought him back into kind of a higher midfield, attacking midfield role, and it suited Giggs, and we got an extra couple of seasons out of him. I just can't really see that kind of role in Erik ten Hag's system that we could find for Ronaldo, or maybe I just don't know enough about football tactics. But unless somebody might correct me and tell me different, I can't see a role for him at Manchester United for the work rate that's expected from him. And where would he go now? Who could take him? Sure, all we hear all the time is that every club is broke. Real Madrid, I can't see Real Madrid putting their hand in their pocket. Barcelona are a crazy club. That's the best thing I can say. PSG can't afford them. There's no way they can. You know, PSG can't just keep buying everybody. The monopoly man doesn't own PSG. Like, even though the team makes it look like the team selection that they have looks like they do have him in charge. I can't think of anybody. The only way Cristiano Ronaldo makes his way out of Manchester United is to take a pay cut.
Ross, do you think a man with his level of ego at this point in his career, do you think he'll swallow his pride and admit, I am not the Cristiano Ronaldo of old? I do not command this salary level. I do not command this status at a club anymore. And I'm willing to step down from my pedestal and accept a lesser wage, a lesser role, and deal the cards that are dealt to me? Or is he the kind of man that, would say, I'm going to step out at this level, I'm going to retire at the end of the season and forget about football?
No, because he will argue the point that he hasn't had enough game time to prove that he's still that type of player. And he has grounds for that. He does. He can say that he hasn't had enough minutes to perform. He can argue and say, well, the type of club that Manchester United have been in the past couple of seasons, with so much confusion and problems from the hierarchy, it hasn't allowed him to perform and focus on what his job is. And you could say that's a fair point. But the truth is that he's not getting any younger, and age is always going to be a factor in this equation. And another big factor with the wages that we keep touching on is the clubs that will be willing to take him. Now, here's the best case scenario that I was thinking about for Ronaldo. If he has to leave, which I'm sure that will happen pretty soon, whether it's in January or towards the end of the season, I think if he is going to move to another club that's not a money-making club uh, uh, the clubs in America, you're talking about the LA Galaxies, Inter Miami's, China, and all the others that I've already touched on. If he's still going to stay somewhere in Europe and go to an intermediate team that's perhaps pushing for Europe, it will probably be uh, to mentor another up and coming player. So if you look at Borussia Dortmund, he might go there and try and mentor up and coming strikers or any other mid clubs in the top premierships in the top premierships within different countries like France, like your Spain's. I don't see him moving to another club in England. Probably go back to Italy, somewhere like Napoli, but it will just be on a bit part role. I think his days of being a first choice striker in the elite leagues is perhaps over.
Do you think that it's a kind of a Roma situation again where he'll end up in one of them teams?
Yeah, exactly.
What was the name of the Juventus striker that left from Juventus to Roma recently?
Dybala. Yeah,
Like,
that's exactly that could happen. And I mean, it's all about what clubs have to offer at the specific time and those openings. Like Roma is a good example because they've got Jose Mourinho there. We know that he's a serial winner manager, and they've got a pretty decent squad. So if he went to a club like Roma, because he would know that their club is quite tightly knit, and they've got good young strikers there, like Tammy Abraham, which is not too far away from the type of physique that Ronaldo has. Very tall, can be quite fast on the ball, and very lethal as a target man. If he was going to go to a club like that and mentor or take that mentorship role to for up and coming young players, then that might be his next best option. But I don't know if he's the type of man that would accept that. So maybe he might even go to America and join David Beckham's Inter Miami and just enjoy the last couple of seasons of his career there.
It would be definitely interesting to see what the sands of time do transpire in the fate of Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, before I give the final word of the show to MK, I would like to thank both of you for joining me for the conversation, and I will ask for the viewers' comments with regards to where they see Cristiano Ronaldo being come the end of the January window. But Emma, the last word goes to you in the football lounge tonight. She says she doesn't think that Ten Hag would stand in anybody's way if they want to leave, no matter who they are. He will push players out that are not needed. So that is the last word. So I want to thank you all for joining us. On Monday, we'll be back giving his tactical breakdown with Mr. Darius, and that will be the eye test at 10. So be sure to tune in to that. But from us, good night.